You are at a really cool space event and you're meeting some pretty amazing people who you want to follow up with. Do you know how? Well, the very first thing you need to do is to prepare ahead of time before you even attend this event. Look to see who is attending this event. There might not be a public list available, and that's okay. You can get an idea of who's attending this event by looking at the conference speakers, the vendors, and the exhibitors, and the, of course, organizers. Anybody who is publicly on the website or anybody who posts on social media, especially LinkedIn, that they are attending this particular event, go ahead and reach out to them if they are someone that you want to connect with at the event. This way, it is easy for you to make that connection once you are there. And if you connect with them ahead of time, if you're able to, then you already have that connection established. It's easier to follow up after the event if you already have that connection established. It's a really good idea to take notes at a conference or event or the evening after so that you don't lose track of who you met, what you talked about, and what you want to follow up on. Don't necessarily write it right there in front of them. You can if you want to, I suppose. That's a little awkward. But as soon as you're able to step away and make that note about what it is that you want to follow up with them about. If you're meeting a ton of people, it is really going to blur together in your mind. Maybe you have an excellent memory, but I don't. So I have to really keep better track, take notes, be more organized while I'm at the event so that I know who to follow up with afterwards. Another thing is that if someone did something very kind for you, you might want to write a thank you note. You might want to, just send a thank you email, a thank you message. You might want to physically write a thank you note. I haven't done that in ages, but that's still an art that people do. And so it leaves an impression. So you're there at the event right now. You are mingling, you are meeting people, you are collecting business cards. Some people are having you go and connect right to their LinkedIn. However you are connecting with people, you really want to keep in touch. Not with everybody. You can't connect with absolutely everybody. You need to choose who it is that you really connect with, that you really feel like there's an opportunity to follow up with. Maybe you had a fantastic conversation with someone, and just because you had that great conversation, you want to stay in touch. Or even better, maybe there was some kind of business that you want to follow up on. Did you promise them something? Did they promise you something? Did you come up with an idea after you had that conversation and you want to send them more information or send them you're a great idea, or have that follow-up call to say, we had such a great time at this conference. I think we can really do business together, or I think I'd be fantastic to work with you. Whatever it happens to be that you want to follow up on, do it. Do it immediately. Do it as quickly as you possibly can after the conference. Networking can sometimes be like dating in that it can be a little bit awkward and you don't really know when to follow up. And do you follow up too soon? Does that seem as desperate? You are not dating. You are looking to see if you can make a connection in terms of business. Networking is the formation of business relationships, and you want to continue that conversation. You're not looking for the right ideal soulmate for you. You are looking to establish relationships with people to continue the conversation, whether the conversation continues the next day or the next week or the next year, or maybe 10 years go by and you reconnect with this person. It does not need to be awkward. It does not need to be like all complex like dating can be. It's really pretty straightforward. As soon as you are able, go ahead and follow up. If you are getting value from this video, I have a goal of getting 1,000 subscribers this year, and you can really help me. It's free for you, and it would mean a ton to me. I would be over the moon if you subscribed. Thank you. Now, what happens when they don't respond to you? Well, this can get really tricky. Not everyone is going to respond to you. Even people, when you feel like you had that fantastic connection at the conference, are not going to necessarily respond to you after the fact. It could be that they're not great with written communication. It could be that their emails get lost, their inbox is buried, they don't log into LinkedIn very often. Whatever method you're using, maybe it's not the best method for them. Maybe they're much more of a phone person, or maybe they just do really well in person, or maybe they're just going through a time right now and they need to take some personal time. Whatever it happens to be, you don't know. You cannot take it personally, especially if you feel like you made a really good connection in person at that event. Then do not take it personally if they don't respond after the event. It likely has nothing to do with you. Or it could be that they were being very polite at the event and did not want to hurt your feelings, and they actually see no reason to continue the conversation with you, and therefore they do not respond. But you can't assume that. And even if that is true, that it really has nothing to do with you and more to do with their priorities and their time. So what happens, again, if you don't hear back? Try again. Try again in a different method, perhaps. Do you have a business card or an email address? Go ahead and shoot them an email versus a LinkedIn DM. Or if you have been emailing, go ahead and send them a LinkedIn DM. Or if they don't even have LinkedIn, because not everyone does, or not everyone logs in, or you might not even use LinkedIn very much, that's okay. Maybe they have a phone number. And I'm a millennial, I'm an elder millennial, and those of you who are my age or younger might have an aversion to the phone. I know I do. Not an aversion to the phone necessarily, but an aversion to calling people. I have had to really get over this. I'm still admittedly getting over this, where I don't want to call people. I don't want to just randomly dial their number, even if their number is on their business card, even if their number is in their email signature. I really, really, really wait as long as I can before calling people. And I think that's just generational. But however, those people who do follow up with calls are much more likely to get a response. And it could be that they're busy and you have to leave a voicemail, and that's okay. I'm not telling you to call them repeatedly. Call them once. You just never know when someone is more of a phone person and they are maybe never at their desk. Whatever it happens to be, you just don't know. Go ahead and make that phone call at least once just to give it a try if you really truly want to connect with someone, if you have a real reason to connect with someone. Some people will actually go as far as to text others. For me, texting is much more like friends and family. However, there are people who will use texting in a business context. And if that is you and you are comfortable doing that, go ahead and do that. It's really not that much different than sending an email or a DM. Except it's just a little bit more immediate and even a little bit more casual. What I don't recommend you do is stop by their office unannounced, unless you happen to work in the same building or you happen to have a real legitimate reason to be in their workplace and you know that they work in a workplace and not from home. It can be seen as very stalkerish if you are just showing up at somebody's office unannounced and without any kind of real reason to be there. If you do want to go, if they offered you a tour of their workplace, maybe they work at some fantastic, cool rocket facility or whatever it is, if they offered you that tour, then you can go ahead and try to arrange that. Or if you really have legitimate business at their workplace, you can send them a note saying, I'm going to be where you work, or even in the same city where you work. Would you like to meet up? Really give them that heads up beforehand. It's kind of like showing up at somebody's house unannounced. This used to be what people did all the time back in the day before, phones were much more common. But now we do have phones. We have email. We have other means of communication so that you're not interrupting somebody or startling someone, or you show up at their office and they're not there because they work from home or they're traveling. I do want to mention that you need to have a real reason to follow up with people. Again, it could be that you've just had this great conversation and you want to keep in touch because you feel like this person could actually be a friend, or you have real business. You have something that strategically you want to continue communicating with this person. It could be that you really find what they're doing fascinating, and that's good of a reason. Like, you want to keep in touch with them because you want to see how their work is progressing. In which case, that's not so urgent, right? You don't need to keep messaging them over and over and over again, because that's nothing urgent. However, if you want to do business with them, if you want to work for them, maybe there's an open position, or you hear that there might be an open position soon, or maybe they are inviting you to be a speaker at their event, or you are inviting them to be a speaker at your event, or a real legitimate business reason why you want to follow up with this person fairly quickly, then you go ahead and do that. You have finite time. They have finite time. I don't know about you, but when I travel, I get wiped out. I am no longer the strong extrovert that I used to be. I am somewhere in between introvert and extrovert at this stage of my life, and I get wiped out after space events. Not to mention the travel, especially if they are traveling, a long distance to get to that event where you met. Give them time, give them space. Maybe they are off again traveling somewhere else. Maybe they've got loads of things that are higher priority that they need to work on. So you really need to have a real reason for them to pay attention to you and want to respond to you. Make it about them. It is not about you. When you are networking, it is not about you. It is about them, their needs, their thoughts, their challenges. You are trying to get to know them, and naturally they're going to try to get to know you, but you need to make it about them. And this is really good advice for really any kind of relationship, business or not. Really try to get to know the other person, and that's going to be more genuine than if it's all about you and you just want to make it you-centric. So networking should really be about the other person and what their needs are. And if their needs right now are not to communicate with you, well, then give them a break. However, again, if there is a real reason and it is time sensitive and you want to follow up because maybe that's your job is business development or sales and you've got a real reason to try to get a deal made, then you go ahead and follow up. And I need to take my own advice on this. By the way, if any of you are small business owners, you are automatically in business development and sales. I did not know that when I started my company. Do you even know how to network at a space event? Well, that's what I'm going to teach you in this next video linked above.